What's up, everyone? Today we'll be watching this video that piqued my interest when I read the title. It's called Why the Boy Band Hiatus Doesn't Apply to BTS. And then in the thumbnail it's One Direction. Wait, was One Direction in a hiatus when they split up? Like, is that what they said? I was under the impression that they all just said that they were gonna go their own separate ways, or that they were gonna leave. I didn't know that they said they were gonna do a hiatus and then just never came back. But yeah, let's see what this video says. Let's see why they think that this hiatus is different. I mean, I know and agree that it's different. This BTS hiatus feels like they will definitely come back. Like, we're all 99% sure. So yeah, without further ado, let's start watching.
In 2015, One Direction, the biggest boy band at the time, announced that Zayn, one of its 5 members, was leaving the group because he wanted to be a normal 22-year-old who is able to relax and have some private time out of the spotlight. Zayn also said,
Alright, you know, I'll be honest, I know nothing about why One Direction split up and what happened, so it'll be interesting to find out as well. See their hiatus.
I know I have 4 friends for life in Louis, Liam, Harry, and Niall. I know they will continue to be the best band in the world. But what happened next was the complete opposite.
Yeah, clearly that didn't last long.
He did not continue a normal life. Instead, he debuted as a soloist. One Direction, now a 4-member group, continued their planned tour without Zayn, released their promised follow-up album, and announced that they were going on an indefinite hiatus.
Oh, so they did announce that they were in a hiatus. Interesting.
Released their promised follow-up album and announced that they were going on an indefinite hiatus.
You're taking a year-long break.
Would you a year?
Oh, and a year.
You're talking about years and years out. No.
A year, 18 months?
18
Well, nobody
months.
knew.
It's been more than 8 years since One Direction's hiatus.
Yeah, they're not
Time
coming
in which
back.
The members have revealed how they really feel about each other and the group. For Liam, the One Direction members were more co-workers than actual friends.
You know, the day the band ended, I was like, thank Lord for that. And I know a lot of people are going to be mad at me for saying that, but I needed to stop or it would kill me.
Zayn said that he
shit.
actually left the group because he was unhappy with the group's musical direction and his inability to put any input in, and said that One Direction's music was generic. After Zayn left, he had public arguments with Louis on Twitter, and recently Louis revealed that he really thought their hiatus was going to last a year or 2, and that's why he took the longest to start his solo career. In
He actually had some hope. That's pretty sad. But look, I don't think, or at least I hope not, that in this hiatus during these next 2 years, I hope none of the members come out and start talking shit.
was going to last a year or 2, and that's why he took the
I
longest
highly
to
doubt
start
it.
his solo career. In recent years, the tension between the members has cooled down a lot. They now seem to be more respectful towards one another, but the idea of a reunion seems highly unlikely, since they've confessed that they don't really talk to each other anymore, and they are all very focused on their solo careers. But this whole
Alright, well, in their case, it's pretty obvious because all of that already happened. You know, with BTS, I guess the hiatus is barely starting, so we still can't see what's gonna happen or what it's gonna be like in these coming years.
indefinite hiatus lie has left some kind of trauma on fandoms and pop culture. Although it's hard to admit it, One Direction is not on an indefinite hiatus. They actually disbanded in 2016. This is why when the current biggest band, BTS, announced that they were going on a temporary rest from group activities, many who don't really know BTS's story instantly assumed that history was going to repeat itself. Many
Oh
said
my gosh, that's so true, man. Like, the amount of people I've had tell me, like, they're on a hiatus. Yeah, they're all going their separate ways. They're not coming back. Like, friends and family who don't know BTS always think that. They heard the whole hiatus news and they immediately thought that they were all just separating.
that BTS is going on a quote-unquote hiatus that One Direction went through, and that they are not actually coming back. And whenever a BTS fan says that BTS is actually coming back because they said they will, many respond this exact same phrase. That was what One Direction said.
They look at us like we're delusional.
Indefinite hiatus, man. Do you know what that means?
One Direction is still on it.
Yeah, exactly. You know what indefinite hiatus means?
Reminds me of One Direction. P.S. They never did get back together.
But BTS's story as a group and as individual artists, as well as the inevitable circumstances and reasons as to why the BTS members are on rest, are completely different to One Direction's. And these
they're basically doing this because of the military service. Like, if it wasn't because of that, they would probably have done this, their whole solo work, their solo albums, but they wouldn't like be separated and completely do different things.
Frantic reaction
They would
by
still
the
have their
media and the general public
They would still have their group projects.
say a lot about how One Direction destroyed the true meaning of hiatus by pretending to be friends and giving false hopes to millions of young fans.
But it's all
On the
One
other
Direction's
hand, there is
fault.
multiple evidence that can convince even the biggest skeptic that a BTS comeback will happen. There is even a contract and an approximate date of when this will happen, and it's not too far away.
2025. Hiatus is not a dirty word in K-music.
Probably the biggest mistake of Western media and the general public is treating BTS as a Western act who follow the Western rules of music and pop culture. Because in Korea, if a music label and the members of a group say hiatus, it actually means hiatus. This is especially true because hiatus are not very common in K-pop, but disbandments are. So music labels and groups don't really have the need to give false hopes to fans because every year, dozens of groups disband and dozens of groups debut. And it's common for the performers part of a disbanded K-pop group to re-debut either as a soloist or as part of another group. Disbandment is not a word that groups avoid. However,
Okay. Yeah, clearly One Direction, they didn't want to flat out say we're disbanding, we're all going our separate ways. They tried to find other ways around it, but I guess in the K music industry, they don't give a shit. They're just like, we're going on a hiatus or they're disbanding. That's it.
it's true that BTS is different from these K-pop groups because they are some of the biggest artists on the planet, and their disbandment or hiatus would be news around the world as a negative thing, and that was what happened.
Yeah, that is exactly what happened. Everyone was talking about it.
Are headed in different directions.
BTS just announced
But
they're going.
all right, I guess when they announced this hiatus and the whole solo project thing, we still didn't know if they were going to do the military service. So I guess that's another reason why people were saying stuff like this. Maybe if they had given the military service news beforehand, it would have been a little bit different, right? If they would have said, oh, we're going to go do the military service, we're going to have to leave for 2 years. Beforehand, we're all going to release our solo project so that we can go one by one, and basically what they're doing now. Maybe if people knew that when they announced their hiatus, the comments and people's opinions wouldn't be this bad. They wouldn't be saying like, oh, they're separating, that's it. Because people would know like, oh, they're doing it because of the military service. At this point, people still didn't know that.
Going on a hiatus to focus on their solo careers.
I don't know if I think they're going to come back.
BTS just revealed some major news, and it's not smooth like butter.
Like, maybe it's time to move on. The K-pop supergroup broke hearts around the world, announcing they're going to take some time to focus on solo projects. Their management says it's not a hiatus, so kind of sounds like it. You know, I mean, I guess all good things must come to an end, right?
So to translate the
everyone
idea
just accepted
tainted
it.
by One Direction, BTS and their label had to go out of their ways to reassure global fans and the general public that their rest from group activities actually means rest from group activities.
Yeah, things were getting pretty bad.
There are many reasons why BTS's and One Direction's hiatus are different, but here's one. For One Direction, it was a decision. For BTS, it was unavoidable. Whether the BTS members wanted it or not, it's mandatory for every Korean man to enlist in the military for 18 months.
They were gonna have to do it at some point.
BTS planned to announce in 2020 that they were about to serve their mandatory military service and going into a 2-year rest in very careful ways, because the hiatus stigma that One Direction left in fandoms was too big to simply say that they were going on a hiatus, because no one would actually believe their words. This is why BTS prepared a lot of special content in 2019 and 2020 to promise their fandom army and the media that a comeback after their enlistment will happen, including promoting their album Map of the Soul 7 as their biggest and closing project of their first chapter as BTS. Many songs from this album were past BTS songs reimagined. They plan to promote this album with a massive global tour. They also said goodbye to 2019 by revisiting their old eras and performing their old songs in award shows.
We
They
all know
also
what
plan
happened.
to release their Korean anthology album Proof and their Japanese anthology album The Best as projects that mark the first of many chapters. And they also said that BTS's chapter Chapter 2 was about to start.
We believe that this award opens the beginning of our new chapter.
But all of this is just their reward to fans and their artistic projects. What can actually convince even the biggest skeptic that they will come back is their brand new 7-year contract to continue being part of BTS under their label Big Hit Music.
There's a
they
contract?
also planned and did end up releasing statements on how important and meaningful it was for them to re-sign with their label for 7 more years. This could work as a promise to fans, the media, and the skeptical general public that they will come back. It's not just
and then one thing I say is there's no way that Big Hit is not going to take advantage of their comeback in 2025 and not do a world tour. Like, I'm sure the company knows that when they come back from the military, a world tour would be the best decision and would make them a lot of money. And you know they care a lot about money.
Their work. They literally have a contract to prove it. But the BTS Law happened, burying the news of the BTS contract renewal.
It's so weird how they called it the BTS Law when BTS like had nothing to do with it and the decision of making this law.
Jin is currently in the military and the other members are scheduled to go in the next 12 months.
From K-pop supergroup BTS, Jin, the
eldest member,
has enlisted in the South Korean army because Korean men are required to enlist in the military by age 28.
But everything that is happening right now was supposed to happen in 2020. Their announcement of a temporary rest from group activities and their military enlistment was supposed to start at the end of 2020,
things got complicated.
2022. But all of these plans were shattered because of COVID-19, which canceled all their concerts around the world.
Would have been so cool.
They had planned for their last album of Chapter 1. It seemed like this could have been a bittersweet see you later, because although they had a new BTS contract, all their big plans were cancelled. But what many were not expecting was that the government was about to release a new law that lets global artists like BTS to serve their military mandatory service at age 30 instead of age 28.
Oh, so when they were preparing that world tour and all of that, this BTS law still didn't exist.
This new law was nicknamed the BTS Law because they are the only ones who meet the challenging criteria. Thanks to this law, BTS
it's still pretty weird to call it the BTS law.
Didn't have to go to the military for 2 more years. During this time, BTS released a pandemic album, a trilogy of English songs, collaborations, and their Chapter 1 Korean anthology album, which was
actually pretty impressive how well they did during
of English
the pandemic.
songs, collaborations, and their Chapter 1 Korean anthology album, which was supposed to be released alongside their Japanese anthology album. They also had their Permission to Dance tour. After all of this, BTS announced that they were taking a rest from group activities
there it was.
because they are going to the military. But 2 years after the announcement of the renewed 7-year contract passed, and the general public is not aware that it exists. This is how the confusion started. This is when
if 7 years and then 2 years passed, and then they're gonna have to go to the military for 2 years. That means that's still 3 years of contract when they come back. Hey, that's quite a long time.
They are not coming back, despite there being a contract that says they will.
The new contract.
The members said that they renegotiated their new BTS contract and they consulted these new terms with their parents and Big Hit executives. This is why their current
BTS still check contracts with their parents.
executives. This is why their current solo projects are still considered BTS projects. For example, all the
and why the company probably takes a cut of everything, huh?
Solo projects are still considered BTS projects. For example, all the members have their own personal Instagram accounts, but their label doesn't manage these accounts. Their management only has access to BTS's group account. This is why the members' individual promotions, although they are considered solo projects, are still published on BTS's YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and other social media platforms. Whenever they have collaborations, it's always attributed to a member of BTS. If it's Jimin, it's Jimin of BTS. If it's Suga, it's Suga of BTS. If it's
still
Jungkook,
part of BTS.
it's Jungkook of BTS.
I go by the name of RM of BTS.
Oh, they do that all the time. Suga of BTS.
Yes. If it's
Jungkook of BTS.
It's Jungkook of BTS.
I go by the name of RM of BTS.
I guess that's the the legal way of saying, you know, they're still a part of BTS.
안녕하세요, BTS입니다.
The members are also considered solo artists on the streaming platforms, but if you go to their physical album's credit page, it still says BTS because their solo albums are still BTS's projects in a way. This is not what happened with One Direction. When One Direction announced their hiatus, their contract ended, and they all signed to different labels as soloists. So you will never see One Direction's official page promoting their solo albums, and you will never see a Harry Styles song being promoted as a song by Harry of One Direction, because the members are now completely independent from each other.
Yeah, the group is just no more.
One Direction and their label cycle ended on 2016, but with BTS's hiatus, a new BTS contract started. This is why it can be frustrating for ARMYs when the media or people who don't know anything about BTS or their story in the music industry instantly assume that BTS broke up and they are never coming back. BTS even gave an approximate date of when they are coming back, and the younger members are basically going to the military earlier than they should be, just so they can return as a group as soon as possible.
I guess that's true, right? The young ones are going soon, just so that they can all come back around the same time.
BTS have schedules as a group programmed for 2030, leaving the question to many: are they being exploited? Do they actually want to leave the group and become soloists like One Direction? Are they being forced to be part of BTS forever? The answer they've given multiple times is no, and they even give logical reasons as to why they are the ones making their own artistic decisions, business decisions, and other personal decisions. The general public doesn't really understand how honest the BTS members have been over the years, and how hard their story in the music industry has been. Unlike One...
Yeah, that's another point, right? The general public doesn't know how honest they've been, so when we tell them, oh, BTS say they're coming back, the general public just thinks, they're lying.
One Direction, BTS speak about their experience as global artists. If they are burned out, they say they are.
Why they gotta show this people?
If they are disappointed by an experience in an American show, they talk about it. If they are sad, they're disappointed.
That moment.
By an experience in an American show, they talk about it. If they are sad their demos didn't work out, they say it.
그래서 저는 사실 좀 기대를 했어요. 혹시 내 목소리로 끝나지 않을까? 하지만 슈가 형이 목소리로 끝났다는 거.
If they felt that they were taken advantage of because of their fame, they call it out. One Direction, they felt
BTS aren't politely calls out Chief Monk for invasion of privacy, deletes temple visit post. Oh my gosh.
That they were taken advantage of because of their fame, they call it out. One Direction, on the other hand, kept all of this to themselves. They were not open to talk about it when it happened, so when they broke up, they started venting non-stop about it. Another difference is how they started. BTS debuted with almost nothing, and they've shared this struggle for years. They were living together before and after they debuted,
yeah, they were like
creating a family dynamic more than a work dynamic. One Direction, on the other hand, had almost no time to form true long-lasting friendships. They were formed on a TV show, and a couple of months later, they were in America promoting their first single. All of this is without counting the massive amount of racism that BTS received in America. People were screaming racist insults to their faces in red carpets.
Really? In red carpets?
From starting from nothing to feeling like aliens in the industry.
We're like aliens to the music industry for America.
Has made the BTS members want to fight the fight as a group, because as a group, they feel stronger, while the One Direction members feel trapped. But many non-fans are still skeptic, and I think they are skeptic because they see BTS as a boy band like One Direction, or because they see BTS as an exploited.
There's just nothing you can do to change their mind.
For those people, I hope this answers your doubts. It's public knowledge that the 7 BTS members have renegotiated their contracts, but even with their old contracts, the BTS members always had more power in making their own decisions than the majority of K-pop acts, and even with all of those existing liberties, it's assumed that their new contract gives them even more liberties and power, and it can be assumed that their label accepted this compromise because BTS built that company basically from the ground.
That is pretty true.
BTS is more Korean independent label.
I mean, it's because of BTS that now they are so big.
Company.
Look at that. That's their freaking building over there. God damn.
From the ground. BTS made the small Korean independent label Big Hit Entertainment become Hive Corporation, which now owns multiple labels. So despite having offers from many Korean and American labels, BTS chose to stay on their once small label because they are now looking for longevity as BTS, and this can only come by having full power in their artistic decisions and not exhausting themselves by touring non-stop and producing one or more albums every year. We don't know what
and Hive would definitely not want their biggest artists to get burned out or want to quit.
BTS contract says, but by the way the members talk about it, many assume that it gives them the freedom to slow down. So BTS having a schedules programmed for 2025 and 2030 does not mean that they are being exploited or they are overworking themselves. They are actually getting closer to a healthier schedule. No more tours non-stop, no more 2 album releases a year, and no more crazy exhaustion like their past schedules.
After doing that for so many years, it would have been hard to keep up.
That's what killed One Direction, and BTS want to prevent that.
Conclusion, they're most likely gonna come back.
I honestly find everyone's response to BTS's hiatus kind of interesting and funny. One Direction left such a big trauma in fandoms and pop culture that BTS cannot even say the word hiatus without everyone freaking out. The first time they talked about the hiatus, many translators said that it was actually a mistranslation, and the word they said was actually rest. Then Jungkook had to go live to explain that they were not going on a hiatus, and then the label
that one freaking word caused so much shit.
That it was a rest from group activities, but I think it doesn't matter what you want to call it. A group's hiatus is a rest from group activities, but BTS had to use another word because One Direction lied and changed the meaning of hiatus. A real hiatus.
I guess when people now think of hiatus, they think negatively.
Is BTS's rest from group activities. BTS re-signed their BTS contract, but One Direction ended theirs. BTS's solo projects are still considered BTS projects, but One Direction solo projects are not part of One Direction. When the BTS members are performing solo, they call their fans ARMY.
First, I want to thank my fans, ARMY.
But when the One Direction members perform solo, they don't call their fans Directioners. So stop saying that's what One Direction said when it comes to BTS's rest, because their situations are completely different. BTS's rest is inevitable, and if there's something BTS has always done, it's keep their promises. So support BTS's solo projects in this new BTS chapter, and let's welcome them as a group again in 2025.
Alright, this was nice. This video gives us hope. Alright, very interesting video. So I guess the reason everyone kind of freaked out when they heard about BTS's hiatus is because of One Direction. Honestly, I wasn't aware that One Direction had announced that they were going on a hiatus when they split up. I never really listened to their music, and I was younger, just a teenager, so I wasn't really going on the news or anything like that, or keeping up to date with what's going on in the world. And I'm in Mexico, so a different country and stuff. But yeah, so One Direction actually said they were going on a hiatus, and now they ruined the word. But I guess that's the reason why people thought that BTS's hiatus meant they were splitting up. They have a different perspective of what a hiatus is because of what happened with One Direction. But of course, both groups are just completely different. Like, the only thing in common between One Direction and BTS is that they're a group of boys and they make music. Obviously, ARMY know that, and we're sure that BTS will come back, but the general public who doesn't know just doesn't really believe it. But hey, that's fine. I mean, they'll see for themselves in 2025, and it's all right if things are gonna be slower, as they said, right? If the members aren't gonna be so busy and have a packed schedule every day, that's fine. That probably does mean that in the future we're gonna get less BTS content, but the members themselves will be more rested, will probably be happier, and won't get burned out, which is important. Things will be different with BTS in the future. That's just a fact. They couldn't keep doing what they did in their first 10 years. That would just be crazy. Who knows, like in 10 years, what's gonna happen. But at least for now, we know that they will probably still be doing quite a few things in 2025, 2026, 2027, the years when they come back, the years of their contract. Once their current contract ends, yeah, then we don't know what's gonna happen afterwards. But they've already done so much. They would have been in the industry for a long time, 2 freaking contracts, so they can do what they want. But yeah, they're definitely having a world tour when they come back, and I'm definitely gonna save up to go, because that sounds so freaking awesome. That's what I'm mostly excited for. I cannot wait to experience a BTS world tour. But yeah, that was the video. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.